Hello again, everybody. Welcome to week 14 of the high school football season around here at the El Tunamir. This is your El Tunamir high school football preview show, which you can find on YouTube, on public access channel
13.
Thank you very much. Michael always reminds me of that. And where else can you find it? You can find it on Facebook. There we go. Mike's my information guy. We are down to just a couple of games here to talk about. So we brought in some extra help here. I had connections with this gentleman over here, John Franco, the Tyrone football coach. He's going to answer some questions for us. I'm joined as always by Mike Boydham, Andy Stein. I got Dan Eisenberg, our producer, digital guy, everything up here. We're going to go right into our first game.
Well,
That's right. We got, boy, how bad am I? We got, and especially, I brought the sheet in. I hope, yep, here it is. We got, Andy, you want to hold one up?
Sure.
I'll hold one up.
Yeah,
John, if I let you hold up the 5 X's for me and Andy, he won't be able to see you. He won't be able to see you. John actually can hide behind this and everything. But yeah, we got one for Dan. But Penn Cambria got us Steve PIAA, a Penn Cambria alum, and this is Mike's. This has got to be Mike's. This would have been Andy and I's grade 1 picture.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This was a shirt Andy and I would have worn in first grade.
My favorite part is the mountain mentality. Right?
Yeah, we got mountain mentality. The shirts were made by John Jasper and Steve PIAA, who organized it. Steve, somebody and I go back way back. He coached flag football at the YMCA in Hollidaysburg when I was coaching my sons out there. His sons were in that league, and that's how I became friends with Steve. But he did a really nice job reaching out to us because, especially, we haven't gotten anything free in like a long time. Not that we do this show for free stuff. I do. Because we have a bunch of free stuff here, but see, we can wear these out. That's Mike right. And I, and Dan and Ann, we can't wait till we can all wear them to work some night together. And just be like, tomorrow. Mike's not wearing his till like he goes on one of his cruises.
I'm off tomorrow
anyway. But thank you, Steve PIAA. Yeah, thank you, John Jasper.
If I wear it in the Bahamas, no Central Cambria people can get mad at me.
Yeah, there you go. Or Northern Cambria, or Tyrone, or what have you.
Heights.
But again, Cambria Heights people, unless they want to one-up Penn Cambria and send us maybe a golf shirt with some kind of logo.
I'll wear it on this show.
Okay. There we go. Let's get right to our list of games. PIAA Class 5A quarterfinals at Mechanicsburg Memorial Park. And remember, it's not at the high school. I was asked by somebody to make sure that people know that if you're going to go to the game. But it's the same place as last year, right, Mike?
Yep, same place the game was last year.
Yeah, Roman Catholic 12-1 versus 6-1 Hollidaysburg. And I guess we'll talk about this because we got a question for John for this. Tell everybody about the situation Hollidaysburg's in this week.
Well, according to Scott, which we have proof because he missed work yesterday.
Because I was sick.
That there's some sickness going on. I think that that's going to be the least of their problems in this game. I mean, the fact is this team has to go into this game with confidence, and that's going to be something that I would like to ask John about. This is like when you've played a team, they're playing in the exact same round, the exact same stadium, and you just lost this team 48-14 last year, and you know that this team's gone around and played all these national teams this year. They went down to Florida, they played a game against DeMatha. They have a kid that's going to Akron to play Division I quarterback. Like, how do you go into the game with the confidence that you need to be able to pull the upset and win the game?
Well, I think, first of all, Hollidaysburg has had a great season. There is no doubt about it. And great seasons bring great confidence. And I don't care what Roman Catholic says or does publicly. In the back of their minds, they're thinking easy game, easy win. And Hollidaysburg's thinking we've got to play the best game. We've got to go out and play hard, and we have nothing to lose. There is zero pressure on Hollidaysburg. And Hollidaysburg has done some excellent things this year. They've come back several games from large deficits, last week probably being the biggest one. And so I think they've got some of the intangibles going for them. Now, I'll take great talent over intangibles any day of the week. But I don't count Hollidaysburg out. Football's a crazy game. You get a big play early in the game, and that builds confidence, and all of a sudden, some team starts pressing their high school kids. So they're going to make some decisions and do some things that you just can't figure out. So I think Hollidaysburg can use this to their advantage. They have nothing to lose. Roman Catholic has everything to lose. Roman Catholic kids, I guarantee, are overconfident, and I think Hollidaysburg can take advantage of that.
So the one question, because I always joke around, you're the most recent person, the only person to play high school football. But like Mike was referring to earlier, I found out there are 22 kids that have been sick for 2 days with the stomach flu, 3 coaches. One of them was my son, who then passed it to me for a day. But the fact is that he was telling me that Roman Catholic has, as Mike said, the Akron kid, his quarterback. They have another kid, a linebacker, who's going to Akron. And then they have 3 linemen supposedly going to Temple. Do high school kids find that stuff out? Because when you walk out in the field, you're going to sit there and say, geez, I wonder if it's that, I wonder if that. Or is that something that Homer's just got to brush out of their head?
Well, I'm sure high school kids hear about it for sure. And I remember I was at Cumberland Valley earlier this year covering Altoona. Dave Shannon was on the radio doing the game on the radio, and he said to me before the game, one of their linemen is committed to Notre Dame, and I'm sure high school kids hear that. If we hear about stuff like that, I'm sure the kids do. So yeah, for sure. I'm guessing it's known on the Hollidaysburg side right now.
What did you have to tell your Tyrone kids whenever they were going up against like the Aliquippas? Mount Carmel had the Brett Veach guy, who's now the general manager of the Chiefs. But he was a big name back in the 90s.
But again, that's another positive you can use. If you're a true competitor, then you want to test yourself against the best. And so now you've got a bunch of kids now. Now, people tell me, well, today's athletes are not like that, but I think enough of them are. They want to prove themselves. Okay, this guy's the best. I'm going to show them what I have, and I'm going to compare myself on this stage. And again, I think that's a positive for Hollidaysburg. I think, their kids have got to be saying, hey, I'm going against the best kid in the state, and I get to test myself against him. So, inadvertently that you've got to give your best every second you're out there, and that plays a factor. I'm telling you, it can play a big role in Hollidaysburg playing well.
Yeah, the other thing is Homer talked to me about this very thing. He said that he feels that's an advantage, that they went up against them last year. They saw that speed. They knew what that speed was. And he said the kids talked to him in the summer. That's why they wanted to go over to the Penn State camp. They went to Penn State camp over there. They saw some other teams that have the speed like Roman Catholic, and they wanted to compete against them. And they did well in those camps, and that was what they were saying. Hey, we got to get ready for this, because this is what we have to get. This is the level we have to get to now that they've had that experience of playing this game last year.
Do you think Homer watches just the film from their previous game, or does he look at anything from that last year? Because they have so many kids back.
Yeah, well, the first thing you do is you watch last year's film to see how they played you, how they aligned against you defensively, what their emphasis against you was on offense. But then you go back to the last 2 games to see, where they're at this point. So yeah, you do the first one to get a feel for their base, especially if it's the same coaching staff. And then you look at the 2 or 3 most recent films to see exactly what they're doing this year. And then you compare. And generally that's what you do for most games, especially when you've played the team the previous year.
Our next game we're going to talk about is the Class 3A quarterfinals at Penn West Clarion University. I still can't get used to saying Penn West in front of Clarion. But that's 10-1 Sharon versus 6-1 Penn Cambria. What did Jason tell you about Sharon? Jason Grassi, Penn Cambria kid.
Yeah, so Sharon, they like to run the ball. This is a game of 2 teams that are very similar. Both have physical backs. But last week, Penn Cambria threw the ball. They threw for 300 yards, 4 touchdown passes by Brady Jones. And it was funny because we talked on this show last week that Jason Grassi said, hey, if we need to throw the ball to win a game, we can do that. Well, when I asked him afterward, I said, "Hey, so you threw the ball. I guess you were right." He goes, "Well, we didn't think we were going to have to throw the ball, and they did though, and that's got to be encouraging because when you get to this point and you find out at the game, oh boy, we're not running as well as we thought we'd be able to. It's great to be able to fall back and have the playmaking ability that Penn Cambria has with not just Blake Lilly. They have many other receivers like Nadolski, Guidus, that can make big plays, and Andy saw that in person.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. Were the Brockway people kind of up in the press box? Maybe the people that are up there from Brockway, were they making comments, or even the coach for them? He probably thought, "Where'd this come from?"
Well, the one thing that Jason Grassi talked about a lot about with me was their defense was outstanding that night, and I think a lot of it came back to the first drive of the game. Brockway went down to like the 20-yard line or something like that on the first drive, stalled out from there, and I think that was kind of a deflating feeling for everybody in Brockway because they knew they kind of like Hollidaysburg this week. They kind of probably have to feel that they kind of have to play a perfect game, and once they didn't score in the first 5 minutes or so when the drive stalled out, it definitely the air was kind of let out from there. And I believe Penn Cambria went down and threw the ball like crazy. What that one receiver had like 190 some yards just himself on 6 catches. Like it's not what you're used to seeing from Penn Cambria, but hey, they did it.
And you game planned them this year. So was your thing take away their run and take away the Vinglish kid? And I'm trying to think.
You had Penn Cambria the run first team, but we also knew we had great respect for the quarterback because he had played the previous year against us, and we knew what he could do. And even though at that point he didn't have great statistics, he made key plays, and I thought he was the difference in the game, in our game. I mean, we were up 10-7 midway through the third quarter, and he completed some passes then at the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, and we knew that he could do that. And we really thought, I mean, there's some teams that, that we play, and this Sharon team that we're about to look at, when we played them, we knew that the first year they weren't going to pass. They were going to run the whole time, and we'd have 11 guys up within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. You could do that to Penn Cambria last year, but you couldn't do it this year because the quarterback is too good. He makes plays. You watched him against Huntington, and son of a gun, he made so many key pass plays in the rain. He's very elusive, a very heady kid. He very accurate with the ball, and I really think against a team like Sharon, he could be the key factor, and I think he loves that. I think he wants to be on center stage, and you love having a kid like that.
What about their defensive line too? I remember whoever covered the game for us that you commented you thought their defensive line.
Oh, they're both offense and defensive line. The strength of that team all year and for the last 2 years has been their defensive line and their offensive line. It's outstanding. And we knew that, everybody knew that coming in, but you've heard me over the years that's how you win football games, especially in high school, really at any level. Your linemen are the key, and your offensive line is the more important of the two because they can control the game a lot more. But Penn Cambria has had outstanding linemen the last 2 years, and I think they'll go as far as their linemen will take them.
And just one quick thing, because I think you've covered them enough for this mountain mentality thing. We joke around about it. They take it seriously. The one story I was told by the Stephen Pio, they had a chance to get charter buses, real nice buses. Their kids went up to their coaches and said, "Nah, we want to go in a school bus. We don't want to go." They want to go. They I don't know if it's karma. They didn't want to jinx it, but they wanted to go in their school buses. They're going in the school buses to the game. I don't know how far Clarion is from Lilly, Crescent area.
It's a good trip.
But you've been around it. They take that mountain mentality thing seriously.
Well, the other thing is that you got to remember that now the Penn Cambria seniors have at least played in the District 6 championship game every year. So they have lots of playoff experience. They have at least 2 playoff games every year. Last year, they made it to the PIAA semifinals. So none of this is new for them. Getting on a bus, taking a long road trip, playing a team you've never played before. This is something that they don't get probably that nervous for because they've been in these situations and they've won in these situations. So that's another positive that Penn Cambry has for it. And one other thing I'd like to point out is just that if this game comes down to the wire, and it probably will because these teams are pretty equal, I would think. The one X factor Penn Cambry has is Blake Lilly can make huge plays in the punt return and kick return game. In fact, I think he had a touchdown against you guys.
Yeah, punt return for a touchdown. Incredible kid.
You guys were trying to pin them deep, and he went a long way.
We tried to punt away from him, and it's hard to do in high school.
Well, good transition there. Talk about teams that are used to it. Our next game, Class 2A quarterfinals. This one's at Armstrong High School in Katanning. 6-1 champion Richland, which I don't think many of us thought we were going to be saying. We thought we'd be saying Bishop McCourt. They're taking on 10-1 Farrell. What do you know about 10-1 Farrell?
Well, I know that they don't want to be 10-1 right now. They're trying to get – they tried to get – they applied to leave the District 10 to go to either District 9 or the Whitfield, and they just got rejected yesterday in their attempt to go back to the Whitfield. So they're kind of like in a spot right now where they don't really want to be. I think the people, from what I've heard from the Farrell people, that they don't feel like they're getting the right amount of competition in District 10. So I mean, this team I picked Richland to win this game because of that. I mean, Richland goes through the Laurel Highlands. They've beaten everyone they've played except McCourt, but then they went and avenged that loss to McCourt.
They beat BG.
This is a team that has a lot of success over the years, and this is their first district championship in a long while, and these kids are probably hungry to keep it going.
And then Richland, other than the Richland kids, I can imagine we all thought Bishop McCourt was going to win that game. I got to think that those kids are like, and I'll ask you this next part. Those kids got to like, okay, now we beat Bishop McCourt. Now we got to forget about that and get ready for this.
Yeah, and I would say they're probably, that game was just a couple days ago. It was Saturday, so I'm sure they're still kind of on cloud 9 right now from that win, and I'm sure you can probably enjoy it a little bit on Sunday, but like on Monday, when it's time to go back to practice, it's time to flip the page, get ready for Friday, because this one's going to be a real challenge for Richland.
How hard is that to get kids to like come down? Because did you think they could be? I mean, just from what I know you didn't thought, but if you read the paper all year, you're like, Bishop McCourt just beat up everyone.
I saw McCourt on film several times, and I was really impressed with them. But I also saw Richland on film, and I thought that if there's any team that could beat them, I thought Richland would be the team. And so it didn't surprise me.
But even though Richland lost to them during the season by double digits, right?
I will say that McCourt's quarterback, I believe, got injured in the game.
Galucci.
He hurt it. No, he's not the quarterback. I don't. He hurt his collar.
Bentley. Yeah.
Okay. So, but then they have the big time receiver, and so he can just stretch the field like no one else.
And he had a pick 6.
Yeah, and so and plus they know them so well. So, when you've played a team every year and you're so familiar with them, I think, it's like us in Bellwood. I mean, so I don't care what your records are. When those two teams are playing each other, they each know that they can beat the other. And so and then you have a close game like that. Now, who's going to make the play in the game to win the game? And who has the playmaker to do that? Who's going to step forward to do that? Because coaching only goes so far. Motivation only goes so far. You win big games when your big-time players step up and make plays to win the game. And from what I heard and read, Richland had that. And I think they'll be a force. In fact, I think Farrell's in for a tough time because of the schedule they play. And so Richland, I think Richland's going to be in good shape there going into against Farrell.
And our next game, we're going to look at the Class 1A quarterfinals. This is going to be in a District 6 site, River Valley High School in Blairsville. And this is 8-1 Westinghouse versus Bishop Guilfoyle, the District 6 champ. What did Coach Wheeler tell you about Westinghouse? Because I'm going to ask Andy about it. He covered the game last year. What do you know about Westinghouse this year?
Well, specifically, he didn't tell me anything because John Hartsock wrote this.
See, I was sick yesterday. See, I didn't do my homework before the game.
But I do know that Westinghouse actually does. They have several players from talking to some other coaches that have gotten injured or aren't academically ineligible. You got to remember they had the City League Championship, I think 3 weeks ago. Then they have 2 weeks off, and then they played Myersdale last week. And Myersdale is a very good team in District 5. But they're just not the same level as Westinghouse and BG. And I think even the lights went out in that game and they didn't finish. They didn't even play a full game. So Westinghouse has played like 3/4 of a game in the last 3 weeks. And Bishop Guilfoyle, meanwhile, has just been rolling through these 1A teams. When I saw the final score of their game against Union Valley of 62-6, I thought, you know what, they're probably upset that they gave up a touchdown. So, I mean, this is a team that, they have very high expectations. And last year, I will say, they went into this game with a ton of motivation because everyone across the state was saying Westinghouse was the best team in 1A and they were going to win the state championship because they had just played for the state championship in 2A the past 2 years. And BG used that as motivation. Andy covered that game. They jumped out to a huge lead and they were playing with fire. So I will say the roles are going to be reversed this year where Westinghouse is like, this team ended our season last year, and they're probably going to be the ones that come in with a little bit more fire, and we'll see how that plays out.
What do you remember about that game, Rich? Because I know we were talking before we started the show. There was an afternoon game. It was cold.
Yeah. I remember it was supposed to be Friday night game. It was going to be at
Johnstown.
It was going to be at Highlands High School. That's out in Natrona Heights, Whitfield site. And, we had a snowstorm. I know I didn't want to travel all the way out there.
We didn't want you to because we cared too much about it.
So Saturday was much better. They played the game at Farrell. Very nice stadium over there. Very, pretty new facility over there. And, I remember just the first BG got the ball first. I want to say they went on like a 7-8 minute drive or something like that. Drove about 80 yards, punched it in right away. Westinghouse gets the ball. I believe they fumble. I believe there's like an interception there in the first half. Like it got out of hand real fast for Westinghouse, and it was almost the perfect storm for Bishop Guilfoyle. And I think they want to do so. They would love to do something similar again on Friday night. And yeah, it was a perfect storm. And I had heard prior to that game that it was probably whoever won that game was probably going to be a state champion. And you never know. Maybe the same outcome right now.
Well, since they lost to McCourt in that Laurel Highlands championship game, like Mike said, 3 crushing wins in a row. Now they haven't been tested at all. Now what happens? Do you worry as a coach? Geez, I wish we could at least been competitive at least so that our kids, because the last time when they win games, they just beat people. When they lose games, the 2 lost. They lost to Richland by 10. And then they got beat up pretty good by McCourt. As a coach, do you worry about that? That if this is a close game, how are we going to react?
Well, I think in Bishop Guilfoyle's case, they played such a tough schedule this year. And they are head over heels above and better than probably any single A team in the state. And I think the fact that they have been successful at a higher level, that just breeds a confidence that you can't teach, you can't preach, you can only point at it, and honestly, Westinghouse is in for a tussle. I mean, this Guilfoyle team, the teams they've beaten are so much better than
to beat Clearfield.
Than Farrell, yeah.
Clearfield's a 4A school.
Yeah, and then BG could waltz through AA, AAA, and maybe even Quad A. because of their talent level and how well they're coached, and just the culture of the program is so good at this point. So again, I guarantee if Farrell has not played the competition that
Westinghouse
Westinghouse has not played the competition that BG has, and I think that will go a long way in determining the win.
Our last,
how valuable is the mindset of that? You go into a season and a state championship's on your radar, because before you guys did it at Tyrone, no District 6 team had ever won a state championship. So the mindset of the kids when they join football isn't even thinking like, oh, we want to win a state championship. That's not even something that kids at a lot of schools thought about. Especially around here, until Tyrone did it, and then BG's won 5 of them. So how valuable is that for them, that's what they've grown up around now? Everyone talks about not winning the district championship, but winning the state championship.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. That's called culture. And when I went to Tyrone, and we went to the Western Final in '95, and they really hadn't done much of anything up to that point. And then once we hit that Western Final and we realized that we could play with the best teams in the state, it just became expected. And then, of course, the next year we went to the state championship and we lost in a close game to a great Mount Carmel team. And then every year since then, it's been nothing matters unless it's a state championship. And then we were lucky enough to get it in '99. And then in 2000, we were like, going into that Sharon game, and with the 6 Division I players they had, we lose them in double overtime, and you'd have thought we were 0-10. We were just so devastated, and it becomes a cultural thing, and that is such an advantage to a program that you go in and your mindset is, we're playing for a state championship. District is nice, Western finals are nice, but we're not satisfied until we win a state championship. And so every kid that comes into your program, that's the expectation. And it is a cultural thing that the great teams have. We had it at one time, and we do not have that anymore. And obviously we're trying to get that back. But when you have it, and BG has it right now, Penn Cambria is starting to develop that. Central had that for a while. It is definitely a bonus to a team to have that cultural impact on your season. And BG, without a doubt, has experienced that over the last decade.
Our last game we're going to talk about is a team that has that culture. The 6A quarterfinals, actually they're Friday night at Mansion Park. If you're not going to be at home listening to these games on the radio, you might want to check this out. Pittsburgh Central Catholic, which probably has 9 or 10 guys on the bench, probably with Division I scholarship offers.
Probably.
They're going to be playing State College. What do you know about? You know a little bit about the State College team, at least what they have. The Central Catholic, is this?
Well, this has been a tough hurdle for them, and going into this year, maybe a lot of people thought State College was going to be good, but not as good as they had been the last few years. But they've gotten back to this point where they have been the last few years, and Deontay Sheffy, he was at State College, was a very good running back for them. Went down to Harrisburg, didn't have much success there. Now he's back, and he really dominated last week in their game win against Wilkes-Barre, and he's back there. That's a kid that had gotten Division I looks, but this is a game where it's going to be you're going up. You have a couple guys like that, but Pittsburgh Central Catholic obviously has a few more.
Yeah. What do you any?
Well, what? Terry Toten, who used to be the head coach there, was a teammate of mine up at IUP, and Terry was a fantastic coach. And you talk about creating and developing a program. Terry did as well as anybody's ever done it in the state, and he retired a couple years ago, and their culture is still intact, and you're like you said, you're playing against a ton of Division I prospects right there. But Matt Lintel has done every bit as good a job out of District 6 as anybody in the state. That team every year plays a tough schedule, tough competition, and they're so close to that state championship. And I know personally, and I think the world of Matt. I'd love to see him get one. And they're knocking on the door every year, and one of these days that door is going to come flying open for them. And I think they have some talent this year. I don't think Central Catholic, from what I've read, is as good as they've usually been, which means that instead of being super great, they're just really great.
Instead of 13, they're 12 and 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there you go.
There's that flaw.
That
There's that flaw he's talking about.
Would be acceptable, but boy, it would be great to see State College, win this thing and then get another shot at the state championship. And I think this is the year they could do it.
We will have to wait and see how many games we have to talk about next week. Now, I always like to say this is the fun portion of our show. Andy's going to do his line of the week. Yep. In fact, I think I have, because you and I talked over the weekend before I started visiting our bathroom quite often there. So, who did you pick for the line of the week this week?
Short steps. Short steps are better than long steps.
Okay, so I picked Central, why did I say Central? Maybe I was
he
thinking
got inside your head with Central.
Maybe I was thinking of Central Catholic. Richland. Richland is the line of the week, actually. So I know a lot of people thought that maybe this is the year that somebody took over for Richland. No, that didn't happen. So 14-7 winners over McCourt. So I usually either send a text message or an email or something for the line of the week. I never got this before. Brandon Bailey, the coach at Richland, he actually sent me some notes about each of their linemen.
Wow.
Yeah, so
he wants to be in our paper too, but
yeah,
he's one of the good coaches. He always gets us stuff back, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he does.
So left tackle, Ashton Roberts, he played with a cast on his right hand all year. Left guard, Brody Hollis, he's the strongest player in Richland history, according to Brandon Bailey. Center, Ryan Rakita, he's been awesome on snaps all season. Right guard, Gino LaMonica. I like this one.
He was our names list last week.
He was. I like this one. He moved from running back to offensive line this season. That's a baby face turn if I've ever seen one. A right tackle, Matt Hostetler. He's a first-year starter. They got rotational subs, Chase Tresnicki and Jacob Mathis. So, hey, I love that. Coaches take note. John, take note.
Did you not have a lineman once who was a running back? I can't remember.
No, a lot of them.
Okay.
Most of our line this year were either running backs or tight ends.
Okay.
You had a lineman that turned into a running back, Larry Glaze.
Larry Glaze was our best example of that, yeah. And unfortunately, that year we needed a running back, and we had a really good offensive line, and we had backups that were really good. Boy, those were the days. But Larry, he rushed for over 1,000 yards that year. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Mike's portion of the show. Mike's stat of the week. What do you have for us?
Okay, so we talked about it earlier. Most people know that BG has won 5 state championships, and that's only since 2014. But in that time span, now just a clarification here, that in Class 1A, a lot of the times in the bracket, the district championship game is always pretty much considered a state playoff game. And in some years, the semifinal games in District 6 were state playoff games because they go on the bracket, and it's all about, like, you enter the bracket at a certain point, but you're in in the state playoffs, you always still play a first round game, a quarterfinal, semifinal. It's just sometimes in your district. So with that in mind, BG has won 27 state playoff games after their win last week in that span since 2014. So we talked about culture earlier. That's how you have a culture, when you have played 27 state playoff games. Well, you've won 27 state playoff games. So.
Yeah, let alone, how about it?
I wanna know what's the name of the game.
And then our final, we'll close the show with my favorite part of the show is our cool name segment. And I found out the internet works in my house because I had to come up with these yesterday when I was under the weather. But Westinghouse has a junior guard linebacker named Romeo Price.
Oh,
Romeo. I thought you would love that.
That's good.
Name.
I like
there
that.
you go. I stuck that one in. Romeo Price, Westinghouse, junior guard linebacker. And then I looked at Sharon, and I thought, okay, this kid's name is Apollo Alfonsi. Apollo Alfonsi. He's a senior tight end linebacker, and Penn Camry people probably don't know this. At least the Max Preps thing had him at like 6'2", 6'3", 200-something pounds. So
With a name like Apollo, I bet he's like a big Creed fan. I bet.
It's got to be.
I did. I thought you were going to say he was a rock solid player. I thought you were going to say that. But there you go. Romeo Price, Apollo Alfonsi. And again, do you remember who your cool name was for our show this year? Who was our cool name from Tyrone?
You
I
haven't
thought
won a couple
Rocky
years
Roman.
ago.
Rocky
Roman was a
one,
couple
yeah,
years
he's
ago.
graduated now. Yeah.
And I thought Titus was last year. I don't know. Did Tyrone get one?
I don't remember.
That's
We
bad
had
that I
another-
can't remember.
We had Titus this year.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
Didn't he
but
play last year?
Well, Dante played last year, but
Oh, Dante
Titus
might have made our
Titus
show, yeah.
replaced him when he broke his collarbone, broke the school record, and was benched the next week because his brother came back.
Yeah, game at Penns Valley when Tyrone
Yeah.
scored 82 points.
82 points, yeah, without running the score up.
But see, I'll do my homework better next time I have my brother on our show. But that's going to do it for week 14. There's a good chance we're going to be back for week 15. I'll be stunned if we're not back for week 15. But that's going to do it. We want to thank John Franco for driving across the highway on Pleasant Valley Boulevard and joining us. For Mike Boyden, for Andy Stein, for Dan to the side of the camera, who actually had a cameo voice offer there for our program. I'm Scott Franco. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.